Gee, that was fun. Ishan, Kishan, and Co have made light work of a chase for 165. Virat Kohli seeing it off in style. But that calls for a very refreshing conversation about India's T20 cricket on ESPN Cricket for Match Day, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. I'll come to Ian Bell in just a second. But first up, Sanjay Manjrekar, we were trying to figure out what sort of score that 164 is and what India's approach would be. Take me through your first response from what you've seen of India approaching that chase.
Refreshing is what you said. So I'm going to look a little deeper into this match, which was in the end pretty one-sided. But, you know, for people like us who followed Indian cricket for a long time, India's T20 cricket for a while, and there was this observation that India sometimes is a bit too traditional for their own good to compete with, you know, the powers of T20 cricket in the world. Today, you just got maybe a little bit of a sneak into the future of India's T20 batting, and that was because of the infusion of people like ISHAN, KISHAN, Rishabh Pant carrying form from Test matches into T20 cricket. There is Surya Kumar Yadav. So just to give you an idea about the new generation of T20 batsmen, Virat Kohli's strike rate last season was 121, ISHAN 147, Rohit Sharma 126, Surya Kumar Yadav 147. So when these guys come into the Indian T20 batting lineup, and you know, if they get the confidence, then you're looking at what you saw today as a regular feature. In fact, it also forced Virat Kohli to play the aerial shots when normally you just pick ones and twos to win the game. So refreshing and almost nudging the earlier generation of batsmen to play in this fashion. It was a terrific batting performance and all round. Let's not forget the contribution by the bowlers as well. But now suddenly, based on this one game, India's T20 batting excites me.
Yeah, the reason this calls for a deeper conversation, Ian, for all of us who, like Sanjay said, have watched Indian cricket, is it's not about how many they had to get. Maybe they had to get a below par score, but the approach is not something we've seen often from Indian sides. And in some cases, they've done what the England side is known to do: be formidable, be ruthless in white ball chases and T20 chases, which is what's made them and the West Indies such powerful modern day T20 teams. Is that what you got when you saw what was the first innings of Ishan Kishan in international cricket?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, obviously you can't be anything but impressed, can you, with that striking Kishan up front there. I mean, again, for me, straight away, he reminded me a couple of the pull shots, a bit of Quinton de Kock. And I've seen him play probably anyone at the top of the order. Someone like Jofra Archer, with his pace, has probably been as good as anyone for those back of length balls. So incredibly impressive start. I just love the bat flow, the swing. It's a really impressive, as you said, that kind of fearless of youth to go out and take someone on. But it sort of balances quite nicely. That partnership with Kohli was fantastic. And like you said, the strengths of both of them are very different, the styles. And then Rashid Pant, again, played that lovely little cameo, which you need sometimes, is when that number 4 comes in, number 3 set, take the pressure off the in batter, get going quite quickly. So I thought that was a really a perfect chase in T20. But I think the momentum actually stemmed from those last 5 overs of India bowling. They dragged it back, and then Kishan started off brilliantly in the power play.
I quite like the comparison with Quinton de Kock. If you could go a bit deeper into that, and I'll get Sanjay as well. Ishan Kishan has spent some time with Quinton de Kock in the Mumbai Indians nets and dressing rooms, but it's his first international innings. Can you go a little deeper into that, Ian, on why he gave you, an impression of someone who can play like Quinton de Kock, who's probably one of the more formidable white ball openers, especially in the shortest format?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily like trying to say somebody looks like somebody else, but there was just the hands, certainly the short ball, the pull shots. And again, he's got 2 great, I suppose, role models. One, Rohit Sharma, who plays the pull shot and hook shot as anyone in world cricket, but also Quinton de Kock, hasn't he, at Mumbai Indians. So, yeah, there was a lot of similarities there. Whether they've worked together, I don't know. But certainly those pull shots against the fast bowlers really did remind me. But again, those fast hands against the spinners as well, so hitting from the crease, not always running down the wicket. And it just looked like, and again, the other day, it just looked like England were outstanding in that power play, but India weren't throwing too many questions. Whereas today, it looked like India came out through Kishan with some real aggression that obviously asked a lot of questions of the England bowlers today.
Sanjay, we spoke of nerves on debut. It didn't look like a player on T20 international debut. It looked like a very seamless transition from ISHAN KISHAN in Mumbai Indians colours to India colours.
Yes, fortunate to get a ball on his pads first up to get that first boundary. So runs on the board is always good. But you're right, you saw the Mumbai Indians approach that ISHAN KISHAN has all the time, batting down the order, not necessarily at the top of the order. And that came into the Indian team today. He's a formidable batsman for any bowler purely because if you pitch it up to him, he can hit you straight into the crowds. Bowl it short, he can pull you into sands. And the pull that he plays, Ronak, is not an instinctive one kind of pull, one style that a lot of Indian batsmen play, because pull is not an inherent shot that we grow up playing. He actually picks his spots, when he's playing the pull shot. The other thing to like about ISHAN KISHAN is an excellent player of spin. But more importantly, what is exciting me is that these are batsmen who are not afraid to get out. Rishabh Pant, ISHAN KISHAN, so they're not looking to extend their innings. No long-term plans. It's just about hitting that next ball for 4 and 6. And if it's their day, if they're batting first, they'll get you a big score on the board. If they don't play long enough, they'll put you in a position like this, where the other batsman can come and just wrap up things. So that is where I think Indian T20 batting might start showing a different face, where most of the batsmen won't be caring too much about getting out and playing long innings.
I guess you would have in particular been pleased at the choice of shot when he was on 48, Sanjay.
Yeah, he went down the pitch and the ball was right there in the slot, hit it for a 6, and later on as well. Old school Indian T20 batting, you'd have seen the batsman just ticking off singles, not hitting the big shots. Virat Kohli still, after that, after 50, hit a couple of balls in the air. So maybe it affected him as well in a nice way. So this is what it's all about. And, there's one, you want to play a high risk game, but do you have the ability to play that high risk game, pull it off? And we've seen ISHAN KISHAN has that, Surya Kumar Yadav has that, Rishabh Pant has that. So exciting times in T20 cricket for India.
I guess it's only a natural result that comparisons will be made for that top order spot with Shikhar Dhawan, who Kishan has replaced today, Ian. And when we speak of approaches, Sanjay says guys that aren't afraid to get out. It's a very new T20 thing, isn't it? Try to hit first, and then if you can't react and survive. Whereas the more traditional batsman, or the guy who's made his transition from 50 over to 20 over, would have a completely different mindset. Now, is this comparison reflective of just two guys with different mindsets, and which one serves the team better for you?
Well, again, the game is always evolving, isn't it? The game is moving forward at pace. Certainly T20, we see that all the time. What was right 5 years ago doesn't necessarily mean it's right now. So, look, there's no doubt today. I think that role clarity in the team. Again, we know all the India top order in particular are all, their own individual IPL teams. They're top players and they'll play a certain role. But this Indian team needs to be clarity on what kind of role. You can't have 5 people trying to play the same role. As Sanjay said, just playing sort of normal cricket shots. You need a blend of guys who are going to be aggressive, and then maybe someone like a Kohli who's going to bat through more often than not. So today was definitely a real fresh look of an Indian side, and actually probably, like I said, England will look at that and think actually that's a little bit harder to bowl at today. The whole mindset of it and the aggression, it just looked different. The running between the wickets, the intensity, everything looked right. But what I love about the striking, it's not just reckless slogging, it's proper cricket shots, whether that's the hook shot, it's not just swiping without thinking about it, and the same through the offside, same straight down the ground. It's aggressive but proper cricket shots.
It's interesting, Sanjay. I wonder what you make. I know it's one innings and we tend to not get carried away by just one innings, but has this first impression of ISHAN KISHAN in international cricket and T20I cricket already given you some sort of clarity on where he is in the pecking order in comparison to a Shikhar Dhawan, for example?
After this kind of a knock, and you saw Virat Kohli, the way he was reacting every time he was playing the shots, it's hard for Shikhar Dhawan to now stake a claim and say that, I'm a better candidate for that position. So if it is a straight swap for a left-hand top order batsman just based on one innings, we want to play Ishan Kishan the next one, and we'll see how it goes. But clearly, Ishan Kishan, and we've seen in the IPL as well over the years, it's not just a flash in the pan today or a couple of matches in one, IPL season. He's been there, getting runs in this exact fashion. Shikhar Dhawan is still old school, and for a while, did Shikhar Dhawan struggle in T20 cricket? In fact, it was at one time his weakest format, 50 overs
Yeah.
being the strongest, and he was doing okay in Test matches. But he picked up his IPL, performances in the last season. But then, when you have a straight clinical comparison between the two, and easy to see who you would want to have at the top of the order.
I think it'd be fascinating as well, because I'd imagine as well the way Kishan's played today. It's not to say like he's going to do that every time, but it takes a little bit of pressure off of Kohli, off of Rohit Sharma to get absolute flyers. We know they're top players, and if they face 50, 60 balls in a T20, they're going to score close to 100, if not 100. So it just takes a little bit of pressure off of them at the start of the innings if they've got a guy who's busy. And it looked like Kohli enjoyed that partnership, because it wasn't just him having to dominate. He could just pick and choose when he took his shots on, because it was just a nice balance between the styles, I think.
Quick important point, Ronak. On the
Please.
same issue, and now we see a tendency of India to pick bowlers who can bat. So they are changing their philosophy a little. The Kuldeep Yadavs are gone now, and they are looking for a Washington Sundar who can bat a bit. He's not necessarily the best T20 off spinner. So there is going to be batting depth, and that is something India is committing themselves to. All the more reason for the batsmen batting at the top of the order not to put a price on their wicket. Because even today, after Ishan Kishan got out, Rishabh Pant got out, India sailed through, and they still had Hardik Pandya and Washington Sundar. So if you have batting depth, I don't think there is a need for anyone to play a role of trying to be an anchor and making sure you don't lose too many wickets. This is the way to play.
All right. I think that's a fair summation. This is the way to play. We haven't spoken much of England, but we did a lot of that in the mid-innings show in terms of just the lack of runs that they got. If you look back at it in hindsight, Belly, did they just suffer at the wrong end of a toss? It looked like it did get easier as the game got deeper, or was that just Kishan and Pant, making it deceptive to watch?
No, I think the credit has to go to India in that last 5 overs of the bowling as well, for the execution and the planning of pace off. We talked a lot about England have a lot of left-handers in that middle to lower order, so the ball was always gripping and turning away from, I suppose, the mid-on to deep mid wickets. So I thought the planning execution was outstanding, as I said, and that dragged it down from 180 to 160. I think England did a lot of good stuff with the batting, even though no one went on and got that big score. There was some good stuff. I think credit has to go to India. I thought we sort of questioned whether there was enough wicket-taking options in the first game, but today I thought they were brilliant. And again, as a batting unit, you can feel the momentum of the game. It just gave India a lift going into their batting, and they executed that brilliant. I think England, looking on their bowling, they probably didn't quite execute as well as India today on the slower balls. We talked about the two Currans. Sam probably bowled his 4 overs nicely. Tom didn't quite get it right today. And the pitch wasn't probably as suited as the last one to Jofra. So I think credit to India. I thought they executed probably better today with the ball than what England did.
All right. Now, one apiece. This is exactly like how the Test series shaped up. Let's look ahead to the third T20I on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. Selection calls. Credit to Kohli for making changes in just one game, Sanjay. But as we look ahead to the third game, he did say Rohit Sharma will be resting for just the first couple of T20Is. Do you foresee changes for this third T20I for India?
No, I have not yet put on my cap for the next game. I am already recovering from this one. But what are the changes that they would want to make? The pitch will, I think, continue to be similar. So I don't think they would want to play an extra bowler. Bowlers did the job. If Hardik Pandya is fit, they don't need to play an extra seamer. So I don't see any changes likely. Unless, Rohit Sharma wants a hit, then KL Rahul makes way for him. But apart from that, I don't see any need based purely on today's performance.
On that point, is KL Rahul's form at all a worry? Sanjay, I'll stick with you and go to Ian as well for a comment.
We've seen KL Rahul go through this phase before. And that's one of the advantages you have when you followed Indian cricket closely for a long time. You see players going through phases. We've seen KL Rahul bat superbly at the Test level. We've seen KL Rahul average 15 or 20 in 5 consecutive test series where he's had problems outside the off stump. We've seen KL Rahul, get the orange cap at a strike rate of 145, 150. Then we see him be the top run getter at a strike rate of 125, 130. So we've seen various shades of KL Rahul. And this is one of those, KL Rahul that we've seen who gets a little muddled in his mind with that line outside the off stump. And when he goes, every time he gets out and goes shaking his hand, you can see that he gets affected by his failures a lot, his dismissal a lot. And when he starts thinking too much about that line outside the off stump, we've seen him struggle. So best for him to clear his mind and just, as Virendra Sehwag, says, see the ball, hit the ball.
Okay, Rohit Sharma may well be available for this one, Vali, in which case would Virat Kohli decide to take a rest now that he's got some runs as well? Or would you make that swap for Rahul, who's an important player of this T20 side, and not sure if you'd rather leave him out after a few low scores?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think there's obviously a lot of T20 coming up as well, isn't there, with the IPL around the corner. So, I think Rahul, he's a quality player. We know that. We've seen that for a long time now. I think what England have done well is they just didn't give him anything early in his innings. I think when you're sometimes desperate for a score, that first couple you'd love to have a half volley or want to clip off the pads early, just settles you, as happened with KISHAN early as well. So I think England were just perfect. They didn't let him go. And you just felt the pressure was building there. But look, he's a quality player. I'm sure he'll come through. It'd be interesting. We don't quite know, do we? I think both with Kohli and Morgan at the moment, I think through these 5 T20s, what the selection will be, we could be shocked a couple of times, I think, through this series.
Yeah, fair enough. What about England then? If the surface is dry as it was in the second one, slightly different to the first T20I, Ian, does Moeen Ali become a tempting prospect in the 11? If Mark Wood is fit, does he reclaim his place?
I think it's either or. I think with Curran today, he's a good player. He's a good cricketer, a good bowler. He's been around this squad a long time. But I think looking at that now, they probably either missed going for the genuine spinner in Moeen Ali or out and out pace. I think I think it'll be one of those two. To be honest with you, I think that, to be honest, if Wood is fit and pulls up for the next one, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes again. I mean, he was outstanding in that last game, and if he's fit, you probably want him playing.
Would you want a Moeen Ali Sanjay against Ishan Kishan at the top, left-hander Rishabh Pant? They don't have someone who can take the ball away. Is he a tempting prospect on that front? Suddenly, England now need to plan for an Ishan Kishan.
The other thing, with the conditions that we have is that if your spinner bowls in the afternoon, then he makes an impression. Otherwise, at night, it almost sort of, doesn't make that much of an impact on the game. But considering the way, and I expected that to happen, Adil Rashid had a great start in the last match. First over, he had Shikhar Dhawan against him, and they played him out just for 2 or 3 runs in that first over of the match. I expected Ishan Kishan to go after him, which he did. Rishabh Pant did the same. So considering that the same kind of threat is imminent for England, might as well have Moeen Ali and have that additional backup, but more for his off spin. Because I think this young Indian batsman may just have the measure of Adil Rashid.
All right, fair enough. What about whether these tosses are suddenly becoming important now? Sanjay, from your observation, 7 p.m. start, no matter what sort of surface, is chasing looking like it's a significant advantage in this series?
See, the dew didn't come in too much today, but it's likely to. But I think it's a significant advantage, and it was very easy to see how quickly India started bowling, their slow deliveries. Bhuvaneshwar Kumar taking the pace of Shardul Thakur, Washington Sundar got the ball to grip a little bit. So there is enough dryness. At least you're expecting maybe 12, 13 overs of bowling on a dry pitch. And once nightfall comes in, even if there's no dew, the ball comes on a lot better. And that's one of the reasons I'm hearing that the IPL always started at 8, because a lot of captains felt that if you start at 7, you give a significant advantage to the team that is bowling first when they win the toss.
All right. Ian, is that just the norm now? Whoever chases, best chance to win?
I think there seems to be a lot of that. And I don't think that's just in India. I think a lot of teams prefer chasing. But I think, again, you're still going to have to find a way of winning if batting first. I mean, again, if the World Cup is in similar conditions where, again, the dew does come in, then you still got to find a way. I think England will be sat there tonight thinking we still left 20 runs out there. And that would have been probably... game would have been on a little bit more, probably still not enough, as it did look a little bit better to bat in the evening. But I think they'll look at a bit of both rather than just that. But they've still got to find a way, because if you lose a toss in a semi-final, you can't just say that's it. So you've got to find a way of coming up when you're batting first.
All right. Thank you very much. Ian Bell, Sanjay Manjrekar. That's a wrap. Series is poised quite nicely. 1-1 after 2. Let's see how either team responds in the third T20I. They come thick and fast. And of course, we'll always have you covered on ESPN Cricket Info Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G.